Good evening. I'd like to call the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting of Tuesday, March 19th to order. I'd like to start off with the land acknowledgement statement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. Call to order. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Could I have a motion to amend the meeting agenda? I would like to remove 7A. The Pembroke Horticultural Society is not available tonight. So moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favor? The agenda is amended. Now could I have a motion to approve the amended agenda? Moved by Councillor Keel again, seconded by Councillor Plummer. All in favor? Accepted. The Parks and Recreation Committee meeting minutes of February 20th have been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, motion to approve. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Jackno, all in favor? Approved. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we will move forward to presentations. We have some guests here from the County of Renfrew, and I would like to call them up. Mr. Unruh, do you want to introduce, or they can introduce? Some of their faces are not strangers to any of us.
Yeah, so tonight we have Warden Emo, representing the County of Renfrew, as well as the CEO, Craig Kelly, and Daniel Burke, Treasurer.
So welcome, gentlemen. These gentlemen are going to be presenting the Shared Services 2024 budget for the City of Pembroke that was approved earlier this year. So welcome. Proceed.
Thank you, City Council, and pleasure to be here tonight to overview our 2024 County of Renfrew budget as it pertains to those items that are shared, cost shared with the City of Pembroke. So our first item, just to talk a little bit about our budget process. So the current strategic plan cycle began with the election cycle. So we now have a strategic plan for the 2023 to 2026 period. And it identifies 6 key areas of focus. And behind those 6 key areas of focus are a number of objectives that we plan to achieve by the end of 2026. So, next slide. Our timeline for our budget process is we have our strategic plan set for the term of council. In October annually, we receive updates from council, whether they be any update to our strategic plan, our non-union salary increase targets, and our levy target. In early January, we have detailed budgets presented to our various committees. This would be the item some of your members are familiar with from sitting on those committees. And then in late January, the decisions out of those committees would be forwarded to our budget workshop, which is a 2-day process culminating in the approval of our budget and the budget bylaw. So with the City of Pembroke, we share, cost share 4 services, we'll say: long-term care, paramedic service, community services, and POA, provincial offenses. Starting off inside long-term care, we do have 2 long-term care homes, Bonnashire Manor in Renfrew and Miramichi Lodge in Pembroke. Bonnashire Manor is 180 beds and Miramichi Lodge is 166, so Bonnashire Manor is the slightly larger. And you'll notice there that the municipal share of the cost is relatively small, about 2.3 million and 2 million, which is about 10% of the total costs inside those operations. Bonnashire Manor being about 22 million and Miramichi Lodge being about a $21 million operation. The cost share is recently renegotiated in 2021. So it's based on the 10-year rolling average of the resident census at December 31st. So a resident is determined to be either a city resident or a county resident based on where they lived for the majority of the past 10 years. And currently, it's about 2/3 in the county, 1/3 in the city of Pembroke. The next couple slides are just the bylaws that negotiated that agreement. And then, so our first sort of department, that would be cost shared, or I guess I'll call them cost centers, would be the Bonashire Manor Client Programs operation. This is about $1 million operation. This is where we have activities for resident, I'll say betterment, not necessarily nursing activities, but other activities. So 3 full-time non-union staff, 19,000 hours of CUPE staff. The CUPE agreement expires in 2025, and it has a 3.25% increase for both 2024 and 2025. We also have 1 physiotherapist and 1 social worker. Next up, we have our nursing department, so the largest cost center inside Bonashire Manor. So on the next slide, you can see we have 4 full-time non-union staff. We have 217,000 hours of PSW time, 43,000 hours of RPNs, and 18,000 hours of RNs, plus 1 nurse practitioner, 1 RN, and 1 infection control practitioner. In Bonashire Manor, and peculiar to Bonashire Manor, because of the struggles in staffing that they're experiencing, we have also budgeted for purchase service of staffing hours. These are agency nurses, as they're known in the news. The $700,000 is optimistically, I will say optimistic. In the 2023 year, we spent $3.5 million on agency nurses and housing those nurses in Bonashire Manor. On the next slide, just a couple of minor items. We have some specific provincial funding for nurse practitioners, on-call physicians, and the lab work we do in the home. Next department is relatively self-explanatory, so this would be the food services in Bonashire Manor. We have a dietitian and a food services supervisor, 39,000 hours of CUPE cooks, chefs, and food service workers, and a bit of recoveries there from vending machines and some other such programs. You said you shut it off.
I was pretty sure I had. No, it's combine insurance.
Next up is housekeeping, so 28,000 hours of housekeeping aides. And then beyond that, we have laundry on the next slide, which is 12,000 hours of laundry aides. And then on the next side, we have our building department. So this is almost 10,000 hours for electricians, plumbers, maintenance staff, as well as some spending there that's yet to be decided for a new funding the province announced, $200,000. I'm not quite sure yet what we're going to spend it on. And then the final, we'll say, cost center inside Bonashire Manor would be the administration department. And on the, you can see on the next slide, so it's 5 full-time non-union staff and some receptionist time. The next slide details our capital plan for Bonashire Manor. So almost $1 million worth of capital work occurring inside Bonashire Manor. The lion's share of it for emergency generator upgrades, almost half of it. Moving into the offsetting revenue inside Bonashire Manor. So remembering it's about a $22 million operation, we kick in about 2. We together, the City of Pembroke and County of Renfrew, about 2. So the rest of that is coming from approximately, we'll say $4.5 million, $5 million for resident fees, people paying to stay there. We are also withdrawing about $1 million from our reserves to offset the cost of capital programs. So those are shared reserves held for Bonashire Manor. I'll speak to that a little bit later. And then on the next slide, approximately $14 million of provincial subsidy. The funding is not monolithic. There are numerous programs running. So just to name the heavy hitters, Our PSW premium, that adds the $3 an hour to the PSW wages. There's no cap on that, so to the extent that we have PSW hours, we will get the $3. Allied Professional Health Supplement, that's $340,000 to increase certain classifications of staff. Nursing Staff Supplement, that's $3.1 million to increase nursing and PSW hours. And on the next slide, the big one, the operating subsidy, which is in itself made up of about 14 components. And this is where we see the term CMI, Case Mix Index, for those of you familiar with either hospitals or other such activities. Our funding is pegged to the provincial measurement of the level of acuity inside the home. So as we get more high needs patients, our funding should rise. And as we get lower needs patients, our funding should be reduced. And currently in Bonnechere Manor, the CMI index is declining, so the level of care the patient should be requiring is declining, but it also means that our funding is declining. So we're down about a percent from CMI index. And the only thing else I should point out is that this funding is actually offset by the revenue collected. So to the extent that we can collect more revenue off of our residents, we just have to give it back to the province. So that's kind of a weird quirk of the funding formula, but it doesn't actually matter how much we collect off the residents. And on the next slide, we talk about our shared reserves. So this is a reserve that's shared between the County of Renfrew and City of Pembroke, specific for Bonnechere Manor. So any surplus generated inside Bonnechere Manor stays there and is used to offset the need for future contributions. So currently there's about $4.1 million planned to be in that reserve at the end of 2024. Switching homes into Miramichi Lodge, again, the same principal client programs. This would be resident social activities. So 2 full-time non-union staff, 15,000 CUPE hours. Next up, we have our nursing programs. So on the next slide, we have 4 full-time non-union staff, 203,000 hours for PSWs, 52,000 hours for RPNs, 14,000 hours for RNs, and a nurse practitioner, an IPAC nurse, and infection RAI nurse. And then some minor offset funding there. Miramichi Lodge has not required any agency nurses, so there's peculiar difference between Bonnechere Manor and Miramichi Lodge. Moving along, food, pretty much the same principle, 2 full-time non-union staff and 37,000 hours of CUPE food service workers, chefs, and cooks. The next one is housekeeping, so 26,000 hours of housekeeping aides. And then next would be laundry, 8,000 hours for laundry aides. Our building department, so of course our manager, and then 6,400 hours of maintenance people. Miramichi Lodge does not have unionized electricians and plumbers. That's an item specific to Bonnechere Manor. And then we have also that minor capital funding. Again, not quite sure yet what we're going to spend it on. And the last cost center department would be the admin department. So we have 5 full-time non-union staff, including the director of long-term care, who you'd be familiar with, Mike Blackmore, and some internal charges and recoveries there as well. Capital purchases on the next slide, or one back, sorry, my mistake. Capital purchases inside Miramichi Lodge are $745,000. The largest one is an upgrade to the nurse call system. And then moving along into the revenue side, again, we're using our Miramichi Lodge shared reserve to offset our capital cost. And then we have about $4 million of resident revenue from collections for the actual fees associated with residents. On the next slide, then, provincial funding is the balance, $13 million. We have all the same funding programs, except when we go to the next slide, we see inside Miramichi Lodge, we have a greater problem with our CMI. It's declining to a much greater degree. So that's, Miramichi Lodge is slightly worse off than Bonnechere Manor in the 2024 year based on its CMI index change. And then because of that, and that has been going on for several years now, you can see that the reserve balance inside Miramichi Lodge is significantly lower than Bonisher Manor, only about $750,000 inside Miramichi Lodge, shared reserves. And then we have other long-term care. So just a reminder that we have 21 long-term care beds transferred from Bonisher Manor to the North Renfrew Long-Term Care Home, that's in Deep River, under a rather old agreement that caps the cost at $140,000. So we have another 21 beds we're supporting up in Deep River. And that would be it for long-term care.
If I could just offer two comments. One is that we're mandated to have one long-term care home, so we're blessed that we have two in our community. And thank you for being a part of that. And then the other piece is CMI. The Warden's Caucus has been lobbying for some time now, as has the Mayor's Caucus, about the CMI. There's a couple of things about it. It's declining. It's a tough thing to recognize, to understand the formula. And you can't seem to get ahead of the formula. And the other piece is, it's such a drain on resources for staff to collect the information, and we're not sure what they use the information for. And so across the province, we've suggested to the provincial government, if they ditch the CMI and go to a standard per bed formula, they'd probably free up about 1,800 nurses across the province. So that would help them with the shortage of nurses. It's an outdated formula that doesn't serve any purpose. So just so, I saw you writing down, Councillor Lafreniere, here about the CMI, and I thought I'd just interject that. So thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I'd like to open it up now to council. Are there any questions? Oh, there is more. Okay. Continue.
Yeah, sure. So that was it for long-term care.
Okay, so for long-term care, are there any questions, comments? And thank you, because, sorry, Councillor Purcell.
I'm just referring, and maybe this probably maybe for our internal, a question in regards to our budget. On slide 21, in terms of our budget package, the county homes for the aged, it shows that there's a budget change of $73,000, and changing from the 1.455 from in 2024 to the 1.528. So it was a reduction of $73,000 for homes for the aged. Just maybe we could just talk a little bit in terms of why we saw the reduction in terms of the dollar amount. And I'm sorry, this is probably, we're kind of using different materials.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not particularly familiar with your budget package. From my reference sheet, we would be increasing the City of Pembroke recovery for Bonisher Manor from $744,000 to $767,000, so a 3% increase, and another 3% increase inside Miramichi Lodge. So on my perspective, we're increasing from 23 to 24 by 3% in long-term care.
So maybe Dave, I don't know if you
Yeah.
can just maybe take it up.
Yeah, we can take that offline, and I can ask the treasurer to comment on it.
Yeah, it just that it shows a $73,000 decline in terms of budget change from 23 to 24. So just don't know where those dollars came from. Thank you.
Mayor Jerva?
If I may, in respect to Miramichi and the reserves, then I take it there should be concern in respect to the number that's there, and I'm just wondering in terms of methods put in place to try and build the reserve up, and anyways, if you could speak to that.
So I would say that the county is maintaining a 10-year asset management plan, and we're currently before council with an update. So we are working our way towards how to fund those gaps. So we certainly see them. They are not lost to us. They're on our radar. The solution is going to involve more money. We're just trying to decide what that should look like in terms of level of service reductions or levy increases, but we will come to ground relatively soon ahead of the provincial mandate for the July updates for our asset management plans.
Thank you. Okay, continue.
So the next shared service we have is our paramedic service, specifically the 911 program. So you do hear a lot about the long-term care and community paramedic programs. Those are provincially funded, so they don't appear on your cost share or on the county's cost to the taxpayer either. But the 911 response program is not not entirely provincially funded. So the cost share agreement is a bylaw where we negotiated in 2001 that the share would be based on population. So that's how that's determined, population of the county and City of Pembroke. So then the detailed charts are there for the next 2 slides, but essentially the 911 program at its core is 18 non-union staff, some summer students, some casual staff, but 175,000 hours of paramedic frontline staff manning what we call the bases. So we have 2 staff, that's 1 ambulance, 24 hours a day in Pembroke, Eganville, Arnprior, Renfrew, Deep River, Barry's Bay, and Petawawa. And then for 12 hours a day, we have a 2nd ambulance on call in Renfrew, Eganville, Pembroke, a mobile response unit, so not specifically tied to any base. And then in 2023, we had an upstaff. So midway through the year, July, we started another 24-hour-a-day paramedic car. Again, not specifically tied to any base, but they move around. And then behind this frontline staffing plan, there is, of course, vacation, sick, all that type of a tail that is associated with it. Moving on then, capital purchases for paramedic service. It's about $3.5 million in capital and another $1.3 million that's going to be leased. So the 30 defibrillators upgrade is going to be leased. And then other than that, we're replacing 5 ambulances this year. And an ambulance purchase now takes 2 years to complete. So in the first year, you put a deposit down. In the second year, you pay the balance and actually get the ambulance. In terms of offsetting funding, we have 2 emergency room staffing agreements. So this is where we have some frontline paramedics inside of emergency departments helping relieve pressure in our hospitals in Pembroke and Arnprior. We have specific provincial funding for offload delay. This is again a paramedic who would allow the ambulance to offload a patient without waiting for them to be seen. So the ambulance can return to the road and the patient is still looked after. There's a bit of interest, and then of course the cost share with the City of Pembroke. And then the core funding, which we at the county typically call 50-50 funding. However, it's not 50-50 funding. The province is funding 50% of our prior year planned expenditures to their own funding formula, which I've dictated there. So it's not quite 50% of our actual cost, it's 50% of last year's planned costs. And then moving along, shared reserves also in paramedic service. So we have 1 for capital purchases with about $500,000 left in it, and then 1 specifically for severance of paramedics that came with the download of paramedic service at $1.3 million. And in this case, we do have a substantial reserve contribution budgeted inside of paramedic service. So it's about $1.2 million of that budget is contributions to reserves to build up that reserve to allow us to draw it down when we purchase capital items.
Okay, any questions on the paramedic services budget? Councillor Purcell?
Can you just explain in regards to a 2024 project, the proposed project for the opening of the Eganville base? How that would be, would that impact the funding from City of Pembroke, and also the improved access care for the mental health addictions and homelessness hub?
Yeah, for sure. So
Because I think those are 2 probably big contributors, well, maybe not so much the Eganville base, but the the mobile health, mental health, and addictions and homelessness hub, as well as the care mental health addictions and
Yeah, for sure. So to take the first one first, the paramedic base in Eganville. So we've always had paramedics in Eganville. We were renting space out of the Township of Bonnecher Valley Fire Hall, I believe. We have purchased an actual building now in Eganville, and the way the paramedic bases have all been operated is that they are actually operated by, we'd call it the County of Renfrew Real Property Division. This is what they do. They manage our properties. And we have a rent charge back into paramedic services to offset the cost of that. So you are paying, well, slightly more, but you did not get hammered with the upfront cost, right? That was borne by the County of Renfrew and will be recovered through this lease agreement back into paramedic services. So you're going to pay the lease charges for that base to the County of Renfrew, an internal lease. The second comment about the homelessness hub is a little bit further along, so maybe I'll defer that.
Okay, we can move along then. Thank you.
So the next up, we have our Community Services Committee. So this cost share with the City of Pembroke was actually arbitrated in 2001. We did not come to an agreement. We had to go to arbitration. And what we have arbitrated is that the Ontario Works costs would be a portion between the city and the county, 20% based on weighted assessment, 80% based on caseload, so where that specific individual lives. And then childcare and social housing would be apportioned by weighted assessment. So talking about community services, the Ontario Works side, Ontario Works, the actual benefit payments are actually fully funded by the province, 100% paid for. So we disperse about $1 million a month in benefits for Ontario Works here in the County of Renfrew. And it's paid for with the exception of the municipal requirement to bury unclaimed bodies, which is a municipal responsibility. So we do have a minor amount for a burying of abandoned bodies. But that's the extent of our cost in the actual benefit side. If we move along into the administration side, so we have 4 administration departments. So the core one, the administration, which is our Director of Community Services, some internal charges for finance, human resources, IT, and we also have a special project running this year, which will contribute to your increase. So we have a 50% funded special project for spending up to $280,000. So our share of that would be $140,000. Your share of that is apportioned 80% weighted assessment, 20% weighted assessment, 80% caseload. And there's a number of items behind that the Ontario Works is planning to do. Then we have our Pembroke site, which is 11 full-time staff, our Renfrew site, which is 7 full-time staff, and these are caseworkers distributing benefits, and our Arnprior and Killaloe site, which is 3 full-time staff. A couple of other minor programs, very minor in nature, except for the big one, employment benefits. This would be the cost of people getting ready to go to job interviews and things like that. And then for Ontario Works revenue, the provincial funding is again called 50% funding, but it's not 50% of our costs. It's capped at this 1.8 million, significantly below what our actual 50% costs would be. And it's being reduced about $400,000 from the year before as we're in phase 2 of the employment services transformation. So this is the government's project to modernize the delivery of disability and Ontario Works delivery. So far, it's essentially a funding cut. Next up, we have our childcare departments. So childcare administration, that's 5 full-time staff. And childcare is somewhat unusual in that its funding isn't so much percentage based as the childcare chooses to use a minimum municipal share function. So as opposed to 50-50 funding, they dictate your minimum cost that you must bear, and they will fund everything over and above that up to their maximum funding ceiling. So in the administration department, it's $165,000. nothing we do can get us to less than that cost. Moving along, we have our core childcare program, which is about a $9 million operation. And it's running our licensed homes, our licensed home daycares, our special needs program, our fee subsidy program, and it also has a minimum municipal share of about $500,000. Next up, we have a little county-run licensed family home daycare. So we have 2 staff that do this. In the county, the PMFRC also runs a licensed home care agency, so this would be the management of a daycare that's in people's homes, so multiple residential homes running a daycare. Next up, we have our special needs childcare programming, 7 full-time staff involved in that. Then we have our early on and Indigenous childcare programming, so about $1.5 million, 2 full-time staff running that. Then we have our new childcare program. This is CWELC. I do apologize, I don't actually know what that stands for, but it's $10 a day childcare. It's about a $9 million program, 1 full-time staff member. And then we have a couple of other or special purpose childcare programs. And then just in case you got lost in the funding, childcare is about a $19 million operation. That is the amount of funding flowing from the province for childcare. And we're in a municipal share of about $750,000. So quite a large operation for the county. Lastly, in community services, we have community housing. So the County of Renfrew is the service manager as designated under the Housing Services Act. And under that act, we have to provide 1,300 housing for 1,300 households under the income limit. So that's our target. 1,275 households who make less than between $27,000 and $59,000 a year, depending on the number of dependents in that household. And of those 1,275, 837 should be high needs or even lower income. To do that, the county employs 6 housing providers. The largest and the one you'd be most familiar with is the Renfrew County Housing Corporation. That's wholly owned by the County of Renfrew, but also separate and incorporated. And it has about 1,000 units and 60 private placements. But we also have the Petawawa Housing Corporation, St. Joseph's Not-for-Profit here in Pembroke, Kinsman Court, also in Pembroke, Killaloo Housing, and GT Seniors would be in Arnprior. For funding, we have numerous funding programs running here. So an older provincial rent subsidy program called IAH. The next 2, OPI and COCHI, so $800,000 and $500,000. These 2 are twins. They're used for repairing older housing stock. Our homelessness prevention program, which is $3.5 million, running in numerous initiatives, I'll say. And then our old social SSRF is the COVID funding that came specific to housing corporations. And we're using the last of it to build the new building on Lee and Douglas Street here in Pembroke. And then our old provincial gazetted funding, which is the one that's concerning me the most. It's on a decline. The actual published numbers, it's slated to run out in 2029 when the original mortgages that the province took out to build those properties are all paid for. And then on the next page, we have a couple of other smaller items, smaller sources of funding. And then on this slide, this is what Councillor Purcell was talking about. Our County of Renfrew initiative for homelessness and housing, which is somewhat different than originally envisioned, but I don't know if you want to take a...
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Council. So just to back up on the community services as a whole, we've hired a new director, and changes continue to occur. So we're consolidating many staff and supervisors. They're all being cross-trained. There's a bit of a shuffle of folks around with the new hire. So what you'll see is continual efficiencies, I guess, happening. We hope to continue that. When we moved the leases from several spaces in Pembroke and put them all under the one roof, we've noticed efficiencies. We're still paying for those efficiencies and paying them back, but we will see savings in the future. On Mesa, this is our hub, if you will, that we started with, and we carry the Bible around. I see Councillor Lafreniere has it with her today. So Mesa is our topic, or our new project, and Mesa basically comes from the Latin word table and the geographic rock formation, as we now call it, where we've got really steep sides to at least a stable top. And it's a program meant to support those in our communities that are really struggling and getting them to a level playing field, or getting them to a point of sustainability. So what this is a massive amount of effort from many different departments, from the paramedic side of things, who are going to be, well, let me back up. When we partnered with yourselves on the warming center going back last year and then again this year, we noticed that there wasn't the next steps, right? They were being treated at the warming center and then left to their own devices, if you will. So we had watched our peers in the large urban centers start hubs, and these hubs were meant for the Londons, the Bellevilles, the Kingstons. Those were the big urban centers where there was one physical center. Understanding there's issues in Pembroke, there are also issues in Killaloe, Barry's Bay, Arnprior, Renfrew, everywhere there are issues. So we've designed a mobile type scenario where our paramedics will be joined along with our other partners in the collaborative effort, from mental health to public health to addictions and other counseling folks, and we're going to create a crisis worker. So the paramedics will be teamed up with another member from that team, the Mesa team, to go out to those in need amongst the whole community. And they will be in the houses, talking to folks in the street, just seeing what supports people need and bringing them to that point of sustainability or sustenance moving forward, wherever that happens to be. So that is part of that. We are also looking at how we can increase our stock or get the houses moved along faster. What Mr. Burke talked about is that 1,300 roughly spaces, housing units. We have a larger number of vacancies than you would think, because it takes some time. When people leave our units, they are left in a state of disrepair. And it takes time and effort and people to bring those units up to a state of good repair and livability. So we are hiring some maintenance staff. We're increasing the maintenance staff, increasing some hours, and hiring a new infrastructure coordinator to go out and do inspections, to get to look at things like hoarding, safety, fire checks, and everything else, to get those units back on track, to get more people. So, gosh, we could be sitting up to a few dozen units that are empty at any given time. So we're looking to get those back in the hopper, if you will, and get those moving. So this entire effort will hopefully take a big step forward to. It won't solve our homeless and housing problem, but it will definitely take a huge leap forward. So that's where we're focusing that on. The large amount of the majority funding for this is coming from different pots. HPP is paying for some of this. We've got several reserves of our own, from COVID-19 down to some paramedic reserves that we're dipping into to pay for the majority of this. The County of Renfrew has not levied for this. It is tapping a lot of the reserves to pay for Mesa moving forward. We're considering this a pilot project for at least a year to 18 months, and continue to lobby and advocate for this. The warden is definitely out there. We're going to Queen's Park hopefully in another month or two, and we're continuing with the Mesa data to make sure we're getting it right. And definitely look for your support. And I think we've heard that support, and we've talked about this for months now, but now this is the culmination of that project with a name, and really happy to move that forward. And we've got phase 2 and 3 coming, and it's kind of like the stay tuned. We've got more in the bank that we plan to achieve.
Any questions about Councillor Jackno?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your very precise report. Sitting on the Renfrew County Housing Authority, I take great pleasure in saying that it's wonderful to work with such a great team. I think we all have the same initiative. We want to obtain the same goals, and that is for the betterment of the community. Our housing stock is aging, as you've mentioned. The renovations that take place have to be done over a certain period of time. Mr. Raditz, as part of that team, I believe, reports to us, and I think he does an exceptional job because it must be very tasking. You know, when you're moving people are leaving or moving out, or they've been evicted in some instances for non-payment of rent, et cetera. That does happen. And to get it back in shape to allow people a decent place to live. The upkeep, the rentals themselves, the expenses are, you know, we're looking at increases in costs. But I mean, everything costs more today too. A gallon of gasoline, or, you know, if you're plowing, or a bucket of salt for your roads, or a piece of plywood for your floor, everything costs more. So I think people are underestimating why taxations are a little higher, maybe a lot more higher, but the cost of everything has increased substantially more than people, you know, have considered. There is a 10-year waiting period, I know, for some applications for housing. And you know what that tells me? That tells me that we're grossly undersupplied with housing in our community. I think we're doing an excellent job with the housing on Douglas and Lee, also on Cecil Street. You know, they're doing the best we can, and I think a lot of communities would be a little envious of a couple of projects in a small community and in the county of Renfrew. And I know it's happening in other parts of, you know, Renfrew North Part as well. What makes my heart feel a little better is when I look at some of the costs and the invoicing, to see that some of the charges or some of the people that are repairing these units are from the county of Renfrew. So if you're getting windows and doors, and I mean, that's a snowball effect on dollars. Of course, you know, we're being taxed, but people are being paid, people are working. It's a positive thing. So wherever possible, I believe, you know, that the county is sensitive to hiring local. And I see that on the invoicing when we look at the monthly account. So I think you're to be congratulated for that. Obviously, when the province came to us and downloaded everything, they said, here you go. As soon as we heard downloading, we knew up goes the cost. And who's paying for it now? It wouldn't be the province, it was us. So I have to congratulate your financial end on trying to keep it as balanced as you can. I know it must be a nightmare. I wouldn't want to be the treasurer of any municipality or county. I don't know how you have, you still, well, you know, gray hair yet anyway. Haven't been in the job long enough, but I'll give him a month. But thank you for your efforts and thank you for your presentation. I think people have to understand, you know, when you look at your tax bill, say, well, why did that go up? Well, they don't consider the piece of plywood or, you know, a window has gone up in price, that everything has gone up in price, and somebody has to bear that cost or not have the service that, you know, we as a country provide to our residents. Thank God for Canada. Thank you.
Councillor Purcell, and then at committee's indulgence, I would like to speak from the chair. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much for your presentation. I couldn't be more pleased to see this program. You know, starting off, I mean, the housing continuum, we all recognize that there's huge issues within the city of Pembroke and the county of Renfrew in regards to, you know, having shelter. You know, the county stepping up with the warming center was a great start. So I do appreciate your efforts in regards to getting that off the ground as well. I think I have a question, and my question is in regards to, again, the Mesa program. I know that there was a substance use and addictions programs application that was put in by a bunch of users for this particular project. And I know that we're waiting to hear the outcome, and it was a $2.5 million grant request from Health Canada, and I believe it's coming due in June. I know this council had actually put together and endorsed a letter in terms of a letter of support that went along with the application. I'm just hoping that maybe we can kind of continue to push Health Canada for, you know, maybe looking at, you know, approving this particular, you know, this particular funding to continue with the Mesa program and some other initiatives when it comes to mental health, homelessness, and addiction. I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to continue to lobby moving forward in terms of that June deadline is coming soon, so hopefully we'll hear some positive news. But if you guys had any feedback in regards to that application, in regards to the substance use program. Thank you.
Happy to speak. We haven't heard anything yet, but mark our words that the chief of paramedic services is definitely tied into this, and if anybody's good at advocating and lobbying, it's Chief Nolan for sure. He is working with his partners that have put that in. I believe it's some of the members from the OVO, the Ontario Health Team, the Ottawa Valley Ontario Health Team, and others. So we're hopeful, and I'll note that if that occurs, then some of these costs will be allayed. I mean, it will offset that, and that will be left with some other monies to find to do other projects. So that's part of it. I've been on record as well as I don't think this is something that the taxpayers necessarily should be only paying for or even paying for at all. I still believe, as many of us do, these are health issues that the province and feds should be on the hook for, and this is what we keep advocating for and playing a strong part in saying any grant or any funding avenue we keep pushing for, like our friends in Belleville that we've heard about. I mean, their issues in Belleville were severe, but they are near severe in Renfrew County. We just don't talk about it as much, but they're as severe. And behind the scenes, we are being very vocal about the need for funding in Pembroke and Renfrew County.
Thank you. I have two comments. First is a question, then is a comment. First question is about the childcare, the $10 a day childcare. I'm not aware of where that is happening in the county, and I know I've had other people ask me to. I think there's very few daycare operators that are actually under that umbrella. And when you mention the $18 million funding, I'm just like, if you could just clarify where that is going, because a lot of individuals have come to me and said they don't know where they would get $10 daycare. They're paying $45 and plus. So if you could just clarify, where is this happening?
It's still rolling out, Chair, and through you to committee. It's still rolling out, so I don't believe there's any daycares that are actually at that level yet. And there's a cap on the number of licenses. We have more subscribers to when it actually comes into place, and there actually are spots in Renfrew County. I think we just endorsed a letter, I think just last month, about saying we're not getting our fair share. I mean, we ask and ask and ask, and we were capped and didn't get what we should have received from the province. So I think that's still going out there. So it's still rolling out. I think it's still just defining it, and I think we're still signing agreements from the last I recall. But it hasn't been put in place entirely in Renfrew County. But the warden.
So, yeah, we did ask for an additional 220 beds. So we've gone to AMO and Roma. AMO last August in London, and Roma as recently as January, saying, look, if there's anybody that hasn't used their allocation, we would like it. And so we've demonstrated the need. They've heard us, but haven't done anything about it yet. And that's not a negative comment. It just hasn't occurred. We don't know what that means.
Yeah, and again, sorry, Chair, it's being phased in, and it's getting to that level of $10. It's just being phased, so that's where we're at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's red tape again. And I know when the Ford government first took over, they were looking at, okay, how can we make things smoother and easier? But I think this is not one of those things that is easier for a daycare to set up. But thank you. My next one really is just a comment. And I will be calling Mr. Nolan. He asked me to review this and just give him some feedback on the Mesa program. You know, there's some things that we can do in our community, and this is absolutely a great tool to start moving forward. And you're right, we are in a crisis in our community, and we all know that. I still love this community, and I really think there are only certain things we can do. And there's only certain things the province can do to help us. I think that it's a systemic problem, and until the federal government starts to change some of its judiciary policies, you know, for years we've been incarcerating individuals, but the sentence is very minimal, and they're back out on the streets doing whatever. Now, on this Mesa, and I invite anyone to look at this report, it's really great. It's great. Page 15, there is some costs that show what it costs a month to have someone in different facilities in our province. $32,000, $32,500 a month, $32,500 a month to keep someone in a hospital ward, $15,000 a month to keep one person in a provincial jail, $7,500 a month to keep them in a shelter, $3,500 supportive housing. There is a component missing from this, and that is treatment facilities. And it's always been bothered by me that they take individuals with mental health and addiction, they incarcerate them in a prison, and they don't get, they're released as an addict as well. So it doesn't help anyone. The cost is astronomical to keep them in prison, and it doesn't help anything. So all I'm saying is we can only do so much. So I'm wondering what steps are going to be taken, not just municipally, but by the county and provincially, to lobby the federal government to start changing some of their policies. And I know you can't, they say you can't force people to go to treatment, and you can't, but it can be court ordered. So they need to set up more treatment facilities where these individuals are ordered to go to treatment for 2 years or whatever the sentence is. Maybe then they have a chance of coming out and being housable, because that's a lot of the problems we're seeing now, is these individuals resort to crime to feed their addiction. They're arrested, and when they come back, they don't have a place to live. So they're on the streets, they're still using their drugs. You know, it's a sad situation. So I guess that's my next step, is how can the county and the city work together? And I know they're taking steps with other organizations, but what can we do to lobby to wake up the federal government? It's got to start there. You can say, okay, the police need to do more. Well, the police, their hands are tied by the judicial system. So anyway, it gets me frustrated. I'm not going to say any more. But I'm wondering if that discussion has also come into play.
To you, Chair, and to Council, it has. And I think what you'll be hearing very shortly is some phases that we're going to suggest moving forward out of this next part of the continuum of housing, is that we're getting there, and we hope to announce something shortly.
Thank you. And you know, it's passionate. It's passionate with me, but it's no secret that there's been a lot of fatalities lately. And the sooner we get these individuals into a safe treatment program and get out, maybe then they can get an apartment and move on with their life. So thank you very much. Does that conclude?
No, that's sorry.
Okay. So we are going to move on. So thank you very much.
So just on the next slide would be the shared reserves for community services. So a couple for childcare, housing, and social services, as well as reserves held inside the Renfrew County Housing Corporation, specific to them. And then the last piece of our shared services, and the one you might be forgiven for not thinking of because none of you actually sit on this committee that oversees provincial offenses administration. So the POA court is a cost shared on the basis of population, and it's actually a money-making department. We get to keep almost all of the fines we collect, less the cost of running the court and a couple other items like victim surcharges and such. And this was part of the download, and it was actually, at the time, a very good moneymaker, less so now. So 5 full-time staff, 2 part-time staff. The net revenue is shared with the city of Pembroke on population. And just a note on the fine revenue. We've struggled since COVID hit to really get our fine revenue. We had always budgeted gross fine revenue of about $1.5 million. And when COVID hit, we had no parking tickets, no speeding tickets, nothing like that, because no one was driving, and it has never recovered to the degree it was before. In 2023, we didn't quite get $1 million of fine revenue, so quite a substantial drop off there. And I understand for all the things we just mentioned, the police are busy and looking at other problems, but this has been I would say a major area of concern for our Finance and Administration Committee about the level of tickets and the level of fines collected. So again, you might not be aware, not being on the Finance and Admin Committee, but we are working diligently on this problem as well. And with that, the presentation is over.
Take questions again, Councillor Purcell.
Just a comment, I think we had the police inspector here, and I was questioning him in regards to why we seeing a 37% decline in terms of ticketing. And that was one of the stats that they presented at that time. So does this correlate to the dollars in regards to the provincial offenses that we should be receiving? Okay, thank you.
Other councillors? No? Okay, once again from the chair. I'm not sure that this will affect it, but I know that the OPP detachment made a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and they did say that we are going to be part of a project where they're going to receive more officers, and I forget how many exactly, 20, and it is going to increase the fines, the tickets, the enforcement on the roads. And I know it was done as a pilot project in Bancroft, and the revenue skyrocketed. So they were pretty excited about this, and I can't remember the dates, but maybe we can share that information. And further to that, one more final question on some of the numbers. On the OW presentation portion, it said 20 times weighted assessment for Pembroke. Can you explain why 20 times the weighted assessment billed?
Sorry, so 20% of the cost share is based on weighted assessment, and 80% is based on the municipality in which the individual actually lives. So we have, I believe our cost share these days, or our weighted assessment, you might be around 10% of the weighted assessment of the county and Pembroke.
Okay.
And then the caseload statistics are significantly higher. Like the significantly higher portion of our Ontario Works caseload resides in Pembroke.
So we're actually billed twice or on two different measurements.
Yeah.
That seems kind of odd to me, and I don't know, I'm not going to debate that here, but I think it's something interesting. Not sure how I feel about that. This goes back to 2001. I think maybe that's something we need to talk about going forward. I don't know. And the only reason I'm saying that is I know that possibly we have more of the workload here, but if you go through every line in the budget, some things don't affect us as much as others, but we're still paying the fair amount. So I'm just saying I think that's something we should look at. Anyway, that's just here nor there.
If I might, I'm not
Yes.
sure, because it was adjudicated, our two friends here could probably give us a better dissertation, but I'm not sure we can do anything with it without a formal action. So it'll be interesting to see what
Yes,
that
I know
actually
that.
means. Yeah.
So that would be a conversation for the liaison committee to possibly have between the county and the city at a future date. Thank you. Councillor Keel?
So in terms of the caseload number, if someone's, let's say, from Laurentian Valley, and then, for instance, they move into like Renfrew County housing in the city of Pembroke, do they then become a Pembroke caseload?
That is correct. So the only area where we have a historical of where did they come from is in long-term care, where we looked at where they lived for the majority of the 10 years prior to moving into long-term care. Because the thinking there was that most of the feed-in from long-term care is from retirement homes, and most of those are in the city of Pembroke. So we wanted to kind of eliminate that feed-in. But in terms of Ontario Works, it's the address of the client at the time that they're using Ontario Works.
Would we have statistics on how much back and forth there is? Or fourths?
So, yeah, wait lists you could be anywhere in a wait list and make your home Pembroke or Renfrew, right? You could move from Brantford to Pembroke depending on where you are on a wait list. So to retrace that would be difficult and just not something that's never been really discussed or even contemplated.
Okay, so that being said, I think that is something to be discussed. Just because of the transient nature of individuals coming to Pembroke because of social housing, I'm not sure it's not a discussion to have tonight.
No,
but-
Chair, I would suggest that people in Pembroke might also be moving to other parts of Ontario as well, right? So we don't know that, so
Yeah.
it's a give and go.
That's right.
So
It's,
just one
so
thing
it's
to
a
keep in mind.
discussion for another day, and maybe
sure.
more information
Yeah,
could come.
we can look into it.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions now? Okay, no. So thank you so much. To some of us, some of this information was not new because we do sit on the county committees. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming tonight. Okay, good evening. Marielle? So Mr. DeRoche is not here tonight, so we have Marielle McLaughlin is going to be filling in. Good evening.
Good evening.
And first we have the design build services for the construction of the Kinsman Pool Butler Building retrofit. Marielle.
Good evening. Mr. DeRoche sends his regrets. He is off sick and has asked me to present his report. So the Parks and Recreation Department recommends that committee approve the award of the design build services for the Kinsman Pool Butler Building retrofit request for proposal P2402 to Belcon Design Builders Limited in the amount of $1,017,770 plus HST. Committee approve an additional amount of $150,000 for a contingency allowance for a total value of a recommendation equaling $1,167,770 plus applicable HST. In early 2024, the Ministry of Labour visited the facility and deemed it unsafe based on engineering reports provided by the city's contracted engineer concerning the roof's ability to handle snow or rain loads and heavy wind. At that time, Council made the decision to close the facility to the public. During the January Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, Council moved to proceed with procurement of the repairs to the Kinsman Pool at an estimated cost of $1.4 million, pending commitment from surrounding municipalities and other sources in the amount of 25% of the estimated costs. Staff issued the procurement documents and began seeking financial support from neighboring municipalities and had further discussions with the fundraising group. This project award is for the immediate repairs to the existing pool roof and walls, including the removal, supply and replacement, and installation of the walls and roof. The existing column and beams are to remain, and work shall include the cleaning and repairs to any corroded sections on the existing beams and the reinstatement of the mechanical and electrical components. The corporation publicly advertised the request for proposal, with the document closing on Thursday, February 29th, with 3 proposals received. The proposals were reviewed and evaluated by the Director of Parks and Recreation and the Manager of Operations. All scoring was done individually, and the compilation of scoring to recommend a proponent was monitored by the Purchasing Manager, Deputy Treasurer. Proposals were reviewed and evaluated on the following criteria: project delivery plan, design proposal, construction delivery, project schedule, and price proposal. Based on the review, the Evaluation Committee believes the proposal from Belcon Design Builders Limited offers the best value and expertise for this project. $1,374,950 is the allocated 2024 budget for the total repairs for the Kinsman Pool, including the pool enclosure structure, the roof repairs on the administration building, the ceiling replacement in the men's change room, the guardrail replacement, and repairs to the entrance canopy and retaining wall. Project costs for the Kinsman Pool Butler Building retrofit, including design, construction, additional expenditures, and the net HST, total $1,185,682.75. This would leave approximately $189,267 remaining in the budget for the completion of the remaining works, and a tender for these remaining works would be issued in the second quarter of the year. The corporation has confirmed with Laurentian Valley Township that they will contribute up to 30% of the net cost, excluding all grants, municipal contributions, and donations of the repairs to the pool enclosure and the repairs to the administration building, to a maximum contribution of $420,000. In addition, Friends of the Regional Pool have submitted an application to the Ontario Trillium Foundation Capital Grant Funding Stream, and the maximum funding allotment under this grant opportunity is $200,000.
Thank you. Councillor Keel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Marielle. That was a really good presentation. In terms of the second step, are we still expected to be in budget based on the current numbers?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we are through the estimate that was given to us by our HP Engineering on the breakdown of costs, yes.
I can't tell you how much of a breath I was holding to get through the report and see that the current values to me seem to be on point.
Yes.
So that was a big relief. In terms of the timeline, I know that was one of the criteria. What timeline are we looking at the moment to have this project completed?
So through you, Madam Chair, there's about 4 to 6 weeks for the design and the ordering of the materials, and then about 4 months of the construction. So they figure 6 to 8 weeks for the demo and removal of the old building systems, including the cleaning of all the spray foam. 3 to 4 weeks to install a new roof, and then 3 to 4 weeks to install the new walls, which would give us a completion date of end of August, beginning of September.
Okay, which I think that's what this council was sort of talking about, actually, provided everything goes
Right.
smoothly. My last question is, do we know where the fundraising committee is at, other than applying for the grant that you mentioned?
So I do know that the CAO has been in communication with the fundraising group, and they should have an announcement of dollars in the near future.
Okay, Marielle, this is looking fantastic so far. If you can pass certainly my thanks on to Jordan and the rest of the team that's been working on this. And I would move that we accept the recommendations as reported.
Okay, there is a motion to accept, moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Further comments? Councillor Purcell.
I know that we had some discussion in regards to the mechanical engineering assessment in terms of the full assessment. And CAO, maybe you could kind of give us just a little bit of an indication in terms of where that's at. I mean, here we are going to go ahead and, fix the Butler building, but we still don't really have a good idea in regards to the overall status in terms of the mechanical components for the pool itself. And I know that we're going to go ahead with the mechanical engineering assessment as part of the discussion that we had when we talked about repairing the building.
Through the chair, so I understand that the company to assess the mechanical electrical has been hired, and we're just waiting for them to get in and take a look at it and do the assessment. So I don't have a timeline and when we'll get that report.
My concern is to move ahead with the Butler building when we don't know the feasibility in regards to the overall status of the pool as a whole. Yes, we could repair the Butler building, but I just have concerns in regards going ahead and approving the Butler building repairs and then find out that we have significant problems with the pool basin or some mechanical components in the pool that are going to cost significant dollars to repair. That's my only concern.
If I could, from the chair, we had many engineering studies done over the past decade on the entire pool. I'm wondering if we would even have a record of what was reported at that time when it comes to the actual other. So I don't know if somebody could dig back, because those reports would be somewhere, those engineering. The original ones that told us the actual roof needed to be done must have something else about what else is fine in the building or at the basin.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So that's what we've reported to on the past, and that there was not significant electrical mechanical outlined. But what council wanted was extremely detailed in regards to the electrical mechanical. So in regards to the building condition assessment, that has been completed. In regards to the electrical, mechanical, and structural, so there wasn't anything significant in those reports.
Okay, thank you. But I think, as Councillor Purcell said, it would certainly be beneficial because we would know what we're looking at. And if we're fundraising, we would know exactly what we need to fundraise for. So thank you, Councillor Purcell. Further questions? No. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Approved. Thank you, Marielle. Next, we have Heather Sutherland and Elijah McEwen. and they are going to give us a report on the City of Pembroke Communication Plan. Good evening.
Hello, everyone. So tonight we'd like to present to you this plan that staff have been working on for the last several months. In terms of background, so this past fall, Elijah and I, as the communications staff, started this process by undertaking an analysis of both our internal and external communications across the city, so across all departments. So we looked at a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges assessment of each department from the communications functions that they have. And then we worked with the management team to go over those analyses and then give them back to those departments to take to their departments to further investigate from their perspective, since they are the experts on what they do in furthering that analysis. So once that analysis was complete, we came back again as a team to then look at all the possible actions that could come out of the opportunities and challenges that came out of those SWOC analyses. And so then, again, we took that information and we prioritized it by both the priority that it is in the city for the department, as well as the feasibility for the department, understanding the resources that they have or don't have in order to carry out those actions. So then we took that information one more time, we finalized it, put the timelines to it to create the plan, create the implementation side of it, and the result is what you have in front of you, which we will go over sort of briefly here so you understand what we're looking at for the rest of this term.
So this plan is looking both internally and externally. So internal communications looking within the corporation and externally looking at how the city interacts with the community at large. We're looking at action items for both staff and council here within this plan. Our project goals that we set out to accomplish when we put together this plan, we really had three key things. We looked to achieve communications across all departments and a city voice that is cohesive, transparent, and engaging. We wanted to increase staff awareness of ongoing activities outside of their own department, and we wanted to increase public trust in the city of Pembroke. This SWOC analysis that Heather talked about that we did across all of the different city departments, we really saw some common themes that came out from each of the departments. So what we really saw and heard loud and clear from those was the ratio of tasks that need to be completed to the staff and financial resources that we have here available is unrealistic and unmanageable at times across all departments. That was made clear by most departments in the city in these reviews, and that has led to communications falling to the bottom and becoming an afterthought in many of these situations. Staff at all levels, though, want to know more about what the city is doing across all departments. Staff feel as though other departments, other staff members, or council members are unaware of what their roles and their responsibilities are. And cohesion is strong within their own sections or within their own departments, but there is actually a large disconnect between one department to another department, or within larger departments from one section of that department to another section of that department. And so building off of that, the key strengths and the weaknesses we found, communication is strong within those sections or those departments. Our website is generally well populated and consistently updated. There are some strengths, some areas to build upon there, but generally strong. Staff have strong knowledge and experience and remain available and accessible to the public. and we have an increasing modernization of tools and a citywide commitment to improved communications. This is something that many staff members and department leaders as well wanted to point out that this has really been a building point over the last few years. The weaknesses there really came up, again, just a repeat of those common themes, that there is a lack of communication between the sections and departments. There's a lack of staff knowledge of ongoing events and or news, and these are both events and news that's happening within the corporation as well as within the community, as well as a lack of knowledge of other staff and department roles. And I'll let Heather get into the action items themselves.
So we're not going to go through action by action, but we do want to highlight some of the, the main things to take away from each section. You'll see that it's broken down by department and across department. It's just a black box. Yeah, I'm seeing that, Sean. Do you want another file?
Yeah, hang on.
Okay, sorry, we'll let the technical issues resolve.
Thanks, Sean.
So again, just to reiterate, these actions were discussed at length across the management team, and both the action and the timeline were agreed upon across the team. So that's, cohesion across all departments in the corporation, which we wanted to specifically highlight because we think that's an important piece of this plan. So in terms of interdepartmental actions, one of the things we wanted to highlight is this improving communication citywide to staff surrounding current events. So we're looking at developing some sort of internal communications system similar to an intranet in order to allow for that internal communication. And so we're working on what that tool will actually look like, but to have some sort of tool to allow for that internal cross communication. So that was the main one I wanted to highlight in interdepartmental. If we head into administration and council, one of the things that is coming up for early in this year is to create a strategy for council package attachments. So we know that there's an opportunity to improve what's currently available. So we wanted to highlight that, knowing that that's something that's of interest to council as well as to staff to improve that. So that's coming up early in this year. And we also wanted to point out, even though they're for 2025, that as we head into the next election cycle, we're looking at, a year out, developing regular council candidate training program and more robust council orientation, including a proper tour of facilities and introductions to staff, so that we're ready for that before the next election when we're doing the election all of 2026.
Looking into economic development, culture, and tourism, this plays into our department ourselves, so we can speak to it fairly well. The first couple of items, we're happy to say that we began developing this plan in November, and those first two we can speak to fairly well because they've both been accomplished already. The tourism microsite was launched in February, and the Pembroke Community Guide arrived yesterday. So we have accomplished both of those in Q1, and we're happy to continue knocking these off the list here. The brand kit, we are looking forward to getting this implemented because this is more and more about just getting some more cohesive citywide stuff across the board as we look at what we can implement in terms of better high-res logos, word marks, visual attributes, a more cohesive color profile with typography and messaging that we can apply across the board so that we're all using the same stuff and we don't have a different look depending on where you are or who's putting it out, but instead we're all using the same thing. The content calendar as well we wanted to touch on because I think that this is really going to help all of us who are using our social media as well as improve the use of staff resources and time because we're looking here at improving our consistency on our social media as well as improving our organization, our planning, and easing our staff resources because if we can be planning that out a year in advance in terms of when all of these items need to go out, then we can already be starting to develop that content when we have a down day or a down week. Then we can be planning that out for the year, that instead of rushing to complete that content day of and the content ends up a little drab as a result, we can instead be planning that all out, that it's all there, and therefore our time is a lot more freed up to be able to be putting in all of these other actions into plan. And so I think that's going to help us to stay on top of things considerably better for us and for other staff who are helping to put some of these actions into place and who need their items put onto our communications platforms as well. Our video footage and our stock photo library, we're already in the process of beginning to gather those now, and so we're hoping to have those finalized by the end of this year. And these are things that we're just hoping to be able to gather so that we can begin to be using our own footage of stuff that's actually within Pembroke in our communications, because this is continually an issue for smaller municipalities that we're stuck using stock photos that aren't actually our own municipality. So we want to be able to use Pembroke when we're putting out ads or putting out various content. And so we're right now developing a lot of business stock photos, a lot of event stock photos and videos. And so we're right now in the process of gathering that.
So moving on to the fire department, here we just wanted to highlight that they've really noted that they'd like to improve the information that they have available on the website. The fire does a really good job of their public communications and their outreach, but they want to make sure that their online presence is matching, the work that they're doing one-on-one and in the community. And then with human resources, here we just wanted to highlight the marketing strategy for job postings. I think we're all aware that labor is an issue across all industries right now, and so here in human resources, they really want to have that effort of, what is the strategy so that we are really selling why working for the city of Pembroke is a great option as employment for people. So that is one of the things that is a big goal for 2024. And then in operations, perhaps the catalyst for making a formalized plan is the development of a construction communication strategy. So work on that is already well underway. I'll have a draft of that ready. We've already worked with ops extensively on developing that. So that one will be ready to roll out for this construction season. So that strategy is well underway. And then we also want to highlight, creating appropriate public progress reports and a plan schedule to make that information publicly available to people so that they can follow along with those major projects that are happening from operations side of things.
On to Parks and Recreation, and you'll notice here there are a lot of items, and they are a lot of smaller items, and I think that's because this is a department where, like us in economic development, they are doing a bulk of the work on our social media and our website as well. And so a lot of these items are about building awareness and promoting. Currently, under promoting less well-known events, programs, and activities, and finding opportunities to boost those ones up, to make them just as well-known as ones that are currently really succeeding for them. And so this is just about boosting up some ones that are less well-known right now, or taking advantage of opportunities that they have for better marketing or advertising right now that they have at their fingertips, or promoting things that they have gotten out the door right now, like the online registration platform that got launched last year. We've got it now. Let's now work on promoting it, or promoting opportunities for facility booking that we can do through that online platform. So it's more and more things like that, or highlighting existing amenities and features that we already have here in Pembroke for them through Parks and Recreation. And again, helping to shift that narrative that there's nothing to do here, because Parks and Recreation really has so much to offer. And so having them help to guide that narrative shift. Planning, building, and bylaw. We want to focus on that first point, which is creating the social media posts, focus on the good news stories that we do have coming out of planning, building, and bylaw, with their building permit numbers, as well as the new developments that we've got there coming from apartment complexes, as well as the Old Sisters of St. Joseph's. And so we want to help them to showcase some of those stories that we've got, to again help shift that narrative and push out more and more of those stories.
And then in our Treasury Department, what we wanted to highlight is the improved public access and engagement, improving public access and engagement tools. So right now we have a request for information that's open, looking to get that information back from the companies that provide these platforms of different communication tools, engagement tools, survey options, push notifications for emergency, all of that. So that RFI actually closes this week. So then we will be looking at that information and then taking the next steps to decide, okay, what is it that we actually need, so that we can implement those tools to have those resources now available to us to do things like pre-budget consultation or project consultation, or that kind of work. So those were the main points that we wanted to highlight throughout the departments. And so we did also want to highlight that we do have an implementation plan, because a plan can be a great, list of actions, but if you don't actually plan to do something with it. So we did want to note that each department is responsible to review and carry out its actions. Again, to reiterate, these actions were approved from all staff and based on the resources and priorities that they have within their departments. And so if timelines change, because sometimes things come up, they will communicate with us so that we can update the plan so that it's a living document. And that we, as the communication staff, will review the plan on an annual basis with all the departments pre-budget time, so that if some of the points require budgetary considerations, then it's built right into that budget process. And we will make those adjustments. So those were the things that we wanted to highlight as we move forward with this plan.
Okay, so before I take comments, I believe Mr. Unraw wants to make a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to kind of congratulate staff on this. Not only, the two individuals that you see presenting, but all of management and some of the support staff that really have dug into this initiative. And, just to highlight, so in front of you, you have the Economic Development and Communications Officer, and you have the Tourism and Digital Media Officer. So communications is, quote unquote, a part-time of their duties. Communications that we've seen in the past has become more and more important in regards to providing information, enhance public, participation in projects during crisis management, creating internal efficiencies. I can go on and on. It's just that communications is a highlight for any municipality to be successful. And so I just want to highlight, we're, created this plan. They've all bought into it, but it might need some additional resources, i.e. human resources, to ensure that we've got it going and keep it going. So I just want to kind of plant that seed right now, that economic development is one of the pillars in our strategic plan, and tourism, certainly a highlight in regards to a couple of the other pillars, and we'll be talking about the MAT tax coming up and some dollars there. So there's just a lot of cogs, and communications, is a part-time. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thanks.
So thank you for that. I will ask comments now. First up would be Councillor Keel.
Things that you sort of eyed to get done, and I couldn't be happier with how this has not only been rolled out, but the fact that it's a plan that started by first surveying all of the staff, and you can see the cohesion in the plan. To me, it looks actually awfully ambitious, but I'll take Heather's word for it that everybody contributed, and I suppose the fact that it is, I guess, in multiple people's wheelhouses to work in their own departments, that might make it look a little less intimidating with the rollout. But I think overall, I think what we'll see from the staff is the buy-in, because they've been, I guess, contributing to this plan from the very beginning. And Dave, I think that speaks to certainly to your leadership and your vision in how the city runs as a cohesive unit. In terms of the planning, I'm so happy to see that. I think I might have nudged Elijah a couple times on that one. Certainly operations gets a lot of press. Recreation gets a lot of press. But Councillor Jacquino and I were in the shadows with our department, and there's a lot of good things coming out, certainly record numbers of housing starts and whatnot for the city of Pembroke, and so I think that will be great to highlight. Operations, I'm not even going to touch on that. I wrote it down, but I think I'll just leave it. We know that there's probably a little bit of work that we can do with that, and I think we committed months ago to be looking at that, and it's great to see that rolling out. One thing that I didn't quite see in the plan, and that I think we fall down on to quite a great degree, is actually emergency events and whatnot. I think in the past we have been, I know sometimes it might be 24 or 48 hours, but in terms of emergency events that happen, I think that's extraordinarily slow. I would only refer this council and our staff to the horrible events that happened in Ottawa last week. Discovered first thing in the morning, and by 10:11 a.m., both the police chief and the mayor were out with official comments, reassuring the public. We tend to be 24 or 48 hours on those kinds of events. I don't think that's acceptable. I think that contributes to a great degree whether you like them or not, and I'm certainly not giving them praise, but the Facebook warriors creating their own world for 1, 2, 3 days, I don't think is helpful. So I certainly would like us to see improvement in that particular area. Discussing a cross-city template and sort of making all of our communications look great. Not only do I think that makes things look good, I think it also has uptake value to the public, because once you know what you're kind of looking for, you can be scrolling through Facebook, you can be turning the pages of the newspaper, and suddenly you know exactly what your eye just caught. So I think that not only I think it's not only good in terms of looking good, I think it actually has some strong functionality. But I probably don't need to tell the two of you that. In terms of where we are, I don't know if other councillors get it, but, you know, I just had it this weekend with the March break. You know, oh, I saw I saw Councillor Keel, you sponsored a skating, but I didn't see it until afterwards. You know, how come you don't put those things out there? And I'm like, well, it was out on Facebook for like 2 weeks. You know, the March break skate schedule or whatnot. I hear that all the time about Festival Hall. I didn't hear about things until they happened. I don't know how to combat that, frankly, because I certainly see them. Mind you, my Facebook algorithms, I'm sure, are quite high with City of Pembroke posts at this point. But my thought is that we're everywhere, as far as I can tell. I do know that I get hit every now and then by a certain sector of the population. They want to see more in the newspaper and stuff. I don't know how much we still do in the print, but I would certainly, there's a sizable portion of our population that is their one and only go-to. So I think we should certainly, you know, I don't know if we need to be having weekly ads or whatnot, but I think we should be certainly still looking at consolidated posts, and maybe on a regular basis. Maybe it's, you know, the first week of the month we have a full page ad in the newspaper, something that people know to go to look to. But I think that we're everywhere in terms of the digital stuff, but we can't forget you know, some of those in our populace that don't log on to the internet. Again, the plan looks ambitious. I couldn't be happier with this. This was such a great read on the weekend. It is so incredibly detailed. Again, I want to thank the three of you. Dave's pointing back at the two of you. I couldn't be happier with this. I know it's a work in progress. I'm sure we'll keep working on it as time goes on, but you've literally hit every point that I think I've been looking for. Again, maybe not so much on the emergency stuff, but to say this is a job well done isn't even enough. I'm really looking forward to this getting implemented.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, and then I'd like to comment. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. When I read it, it's quite extensive. And I have full confidence that everyone will be able to pull it off. It's a lot of work, and you know, the better communication we have, it's great for current residents and new residents and citizens that want to consider moving to Pembroke. It's very important. I really like the construction communication strategy. CAO had mentioned that earlier, that's going to be developed, and that's really important, especially when we have detours and all that, to notify people of what's going on and notify the businesses and residents that are affected ahead of time. Using our own photos is so important in the community, set of stock photos, so that's great. The seasonal mailouts, that's welcome. I know we do it now with the water and tax bulletin, but to see that improved also, because not everybody, you know, people say to me, oh, I didn't know that was going on, but not everybody's on Facebook, not everybody reads the paper, not everybody listens to the radio, but some people get a bill and they'll see the flyer, so, and not everybody reads their bills, right, so, or their flyer. So those are the highlights. Just want to thank you and staff for coming up with this. I'm looking forward to it, and also the online booking. I know residents were looking for that, and we finally have that, and it's going to be more enhanced also. So thank you very much.
Councillor Purcell.
Just wanted to echo, I guess, the sentiments in regards to the job well done. I know that, you know, some of the things that I really wanted to see was the new councillor orientation, so thank you very much for capturing that as an initiative. As you're well aware, transparency is one of the things I talk a lot about. Transparency is communication, and we need communication. So with you know, some of the ideas that you have in place in regards to the local intranet, keeping staff informed, you know, that's kudos. Modernization. The modernization piece, I didn't really see, and I kind of want to echo some of the same concerns that, or opportunities, I guess, that Councillor Keel brought forward in terms of emergency management and crisis management. Maybe we can just expand upon that, as well as, and I know it's just like touched on modernization, but the document management, the record retention, digitizing of records and those kinds of things, they kind of go hand in hand with the communications component, and maybe just a little bit more emphasis on that, because I know that has been a challenge in the past in terms of access to information. Operations and construction, I don't know how many times that Mr. Lewis and I had the conversation in regards to, I'm getting calls why the sidewalk plow is out. The minimum maintenance standards and just communicating, those activities, so that way we don't have to field as many calls from residents that think that, that our dollars aren't being well spent in terms of the operations of the equipment and those kinds of things. Meanwhile, they don't understand the reasoning behind some of the activities that we do. So I think that's really, really important. The Parks and Rec, in terms of promoting our facilities, the new registration platform, very, very good initiative. I think that really is going to be beneficial for users, and also will help, point some of our residents in the right direction in terms of, getting access to some of the recreation programs that we have. The E11, the action tracking tool, I'm anxious to be able to hear a little bit more about that and the access to that E11 tool for action tracking purposes. And my other comment is there a possibility in terms of getting a scorecard in terms of just to track the progress of the implementation, maybe done on a quarterly basis, just a quick, scorecard, here we are. Doesn't have to have a lot of detail, but I think it just keeps the the initiative, well and alive, because it really is important that we we continue to communicate effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback a little here on what Councillor Keel said. I guess the only thing I'm seeing that I think should be there, I know the fire department had some, is safety and security. And maybe some good news stories about what we are doing to help individuals feel safe in our community. The Neighborhood Watch program, maybe we could help to promote that a little more. There's been a lot of concerns raised now about, the increased drug activity in our community. And as much as we can educate individuals about what they can do to secure their property, the OPP have that program now too, where they will install a camera. So there's many programs. It's just about getting that word out there. If individuals feel that there's people crossing their property or leaving dangerous items on their property, well, maybe they don't know about these programs. So it's about some good news stories. This is what we're helping you do to protect and feel safe and secure. So that would be my only thing. And I know that the OPP they also do their own communication, but I think if we're working with them, we don't want to seem like we're in separate silos, And then finally, communication. Yeah, how are we going to communicate this? And that was the thing too. I know I'm closer to 70 than 60 now, and I'm internet savvy, so I'm on there. And if I want to know if something's going on, I will go on the City of Pembroke website and find it out. So I find it surprising that people aren't doing that if they want to know what's going on in our community. But that being said, I think that we're a shrinking demographic, the individuals that are not on the web. But that being said, I think radio ads, the odd time, just to let people know what's going on, wouldn't hurt. So yeah, this council will have to decide on budget next year if they want to proceed to promote this. So I want to thank both of you for your hard work and all the staff that worked with you to create this. So seeing no more comments, questions, sorry, Councillor Jackno. How could I miss you?
Thank you. How could you miss me? My corduroy outfit. Thank you. Thank you to staff, through you, Madam Chair. Did a lot of work. I have a little concern that maybe, we're creating these, how would I put it, exterior silos within a silo by communicating. As Councillor Fernier says, people are on Facebook, they're on social media, and as Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message. And the media today the medium is social media. It dictates to you sort of what you should be looking at or what you should be following. But I have to chuckle when I see people trying to identify a photograph of our community and 9 people say it's in a different location. So that's misinformation to me. Will we be able to, how would I put it, focus exactly on what this communication strategy is going to be, as opposed to such a large overview? I think you've sort of cut it down a bit, but I still have, I have some concerns that maybe it should be refined even a little more. I had an individual, a friend of mine, worked in a large engineering firm, and his biggest peeve was this. He would say to his staff, there will be a meeting at 4 o'clock on the internet. And 9 out of 10 of them would say, through an email, just want to confirm that meeting at 4 o'clock. I mean, the meeting at 4 o'clock is at 4 o'clock. Why would you waste your time, again, responding to 9 people who have not read the message within the medium? You know what I'm saying? So maybe I'm a little bit off the wall, but I think what you're doing is good. It's correct. I mean, there was a blackout, and they had to evacuate the Memorial Center a couple of weeks ago at a game, you know? Do I want to know about that as a counselor? No. There's police, there's staff. Should I know about it as a counselor? I guess I should. But what could I do about it initially? If somebody was to phone me and to say, is there, you know, blackout at the arena? I don't live at the arena. You know, I depend on staff and the people to bring that back to me in a report, whether it shouldn't, I don't think it should be immediate. It's a police safety matter. It's a staff matter. So I think we have to define those things and put them into a real strong laser beam perspective. But I thought it's well done. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your report. And I believe Heather, thank you, Elijah, very much. I will see you next Monday night. Heather, next, My Main Street grant application.
Okay, so we are looking for committee approval here on a few things. So that committee approved the proposed Shamrock Park improvement project concept, that the city will front the reimbursable costs on behalf of the Pembroke Business Improvement Area through the general capital reserves, and if there are insufficient funds in the Moffett Street reconstruction project to cover the ineligible project costs, that these costs be covered through the general capital reserves. So what we're referring to here is an application for the My Main Street grant program. So My Main Street is a $15 million investment from the Government of Canada through FedDev to spur local economic recovery. The community activator stream, which is the one through which we can apply, provides support for community projects such as events and activities, community enhancements, streetscape improvements designed to draw visitors, encourage business development and growth, and to increase local vibrancy. This stream provides funding for local groups to revitalize neighborhoods and reimagine public spaces with a focus on main streets or downtown strips and plazas as vibrant and inclusive places for everyone. The application period for this grant closes on March 31st, and it opened in late February. So staff from the Economic Development, Culture and Tourism, Operations, and Parks and Recreation departments, along with the Pembroke Business Improvement Area, brainstormed and discussed a few potential projects for this grant program, ultimately deciding that the enhancement of Shamrock Park would be the best option with the most likelihood of success for the grant. Eligible work for this project must be completed by the end of this year. So the project scope includes creating a covered platform in the park to be used as a staging area or activation area with electrical capabilities. The purchase and installation of new benches and waste receptacles, accessible picnic tables, a chessboard table, a bike repair station and bike racks, additional pedestrian street lights, landscaping that could include some trees and shrubs, park signage, as well as an information board on the history of the park, poop and scoop bag dispenser and signage, an art installation, programming in the park, as well as a portable speaker. Ineligible grant costs for this project include hard landscaping with AODA compliant surfaces, the replacement of the parking meters in Shamrock Park's parking lot, and the running of the underground electrical components to bring the electricity into the park. The total eligible project expenses are estimated at $100,000. The total ineligible project costs are estimated at $51,000. The grant program works on reimbursement, so we pay up front and then provide the receipts to receive the grant funds back. With this project scope, the Pembroke Business Improvement Area will be the lead applicant, and the city will provide necessary supporting information and documentation. As the PBIA does not have sufficient reserve funds to cover the project costs, staff is seeking committee's approval for the city to front the costs of the eligible costs of the grant program, and then with obviously the grant money returning to the general capital reserves. Part of the reason that this project was deemed the most appropriate was to align with the work of the Moffett Street reconstruction that's happening this year. That way the works can be planned with the street work in order to maximize the construction efforts. And the operations department does plan to include the ineligible project costs under the Moffett Street reconstruction project. However, if that project has insufficient funds, staff is seeking committee's approval to fund these costs through the general capital reserves. You'll see on the second page a very rough drawing of sort of what the concept is, so you have a bit of a visual to understand what the vision is here. And so yes, as noted, in terms of financial implications, the eligible project expenses are estimated around $100,000, ineligible costs estimated around $51,000, and so the eligible costs would be funded through the general capital reserves to be then reimbursed, and the ineligible costs could be covered under the reconstruction project, or if insufficient funds, the general capital reserves.
Thank you, Heather. Councillor Keel?
In terms of, so generally speaking, I'm assuming we're only proceeding if we get the grant, right? Okay. So in terms of the ineligible expenses, do we have to proceed with those or in order to satisfy the grant, or do we just have to complete the eligible expenses in order to satisfy the grant?
No, so just the eligible expenses are needed to satisfy the grant.
Okay, so the only thing that I don't like the idea to approve this from the general capital reserve. I feel like we go to that well one too many times, and I'm not even happy with how deep that well currently is from a general holistic perspective. So that's the only concern. Well, the biggest concern of mine is the parking meters. Why do they need replacing? Parking meters are turning into my crosswalks, Your Worship. They're they just keep coming back as a nightmare. Do we have an explanation for the parking meters?
So a couple of things. So first, that portion could be phased in over time,
Okay.
in order to bring the equipment that's there up to match with the rest of what's downtown. And as operations does the connector streets, all the new look and feel will match. So it's matching that kind of work.
Okay. Are we looking for a motion on this, or are we just looking for? Okay. So I'll tell you what I like. I love the eligible expenses. I've loved going through with this, and I'll tell you why. I think Shamrock Park is a little jewel in the city that has just recently really been shining. During the summer months, Bethia and the PBIA have stuff down there on a weekly basis. Even throughout the winters, it's literally a hot spot, often with heat, for our shop hops and that in November and December. I think this is something, and I'm not being critical of past councils. Obviously they had the land, they did something nice with it. I don't know if they had a larger vision for it, but I think at this point it's proof of everything about the eligible costs. I do believe the electrical component I think is necessary, so I'd be willing to go that far if we have to, in terms of finding the money somewhere. The replacement of the parking meters and the hard landscaping, I would wonder if maybe we could budget for that next year and sort of roll things out. But certainly, I'd like to hear from the other councillors, but I'm all in on the eligible costs. I do think the electrical is necessary. I'm just, I worry about dipping into the general reserve. And I'll tell you, honestly, that's just, you're gonna find throughout the year, that's more going to be a general policy of mine, not anything to do with this particular project.
I just want to comment. I believe I was talking to Councillor Keel not long ago about flags and flag poles and things like that. And it came up that property, it was the old Pembroke Hotel property, and it burnt, that it was never properly cleaned, the actual land, and that you may not be able to go down very far in the soil because there is still chunks of the foundation of that building. It wasn't properly restored, is what I'd heard. So have they done any research or any exploration of the actual ground to see if they can actually build anything there? That's my question, because the underground wiring might be difficult if there's still parts of the Pembroke Hotel foundation there. And I want to know that, but I also want to say that I tend to agree with Councillor Keel about, let's just go for the eligible expenses now, and then council could look at the extra things next year. But I really want to know, before we proceed, whether you can actually go down 4 to 5 feet. It's important to know that before you proceed with something like this, or the costs could really escalate.
So the answer I have is we have not done any studies on the ground.
So I'm just thinking it should be done, because if it wasn't properly, anyway, Mr. Unruh?
Yeah, so in regards to, regards to the detail evaluation, no. But in regards to what the work is, and so in regards to the covered platform, that would be probably 6 or so sonotubes, so that wouldn't be that much of an issue in regards to, if there was a foundation, they could just move those things. The electrical, that can be rerouted around if there is some old foundation there. So I don't see that an old foundation would cause that much issue. Like, we're not digging down and putting in a big foundation for a huge structure. It'd be just a sonotube, so I can't see that an existing structure might have that
And
much.
picnic tables and things of that nature would just be placed on a cement pad, so it can't be walked away with. Okay, well, that's good. Thank you very much. Councillor Purcell, then Councillor Jackno.
I guess my concerns are as a result in terms of the safety concerns. It's a small parkette, and you start adding the stage, you start adding 2 benches, waste receptacles, picnic tables, a chessboard, the bike repair station. My concern then is overflow of individuals stepping out onto Main Street or onto the side street in the event that we do have, an event going on there. Is it big enough to, like, in terms of a stage? It says other programming space. I understand that, there's electrical hookups and those kinds of things, but in terms of a stage, I just don't see a lot of people congregating in that area. And if there is going to be people congregating in that area, it's going to cause some safety concerns. The other thing I don't see there, and I've been kind of a big proponent of that, is in terms of the bike racks and the bike repair stations, is security cameras. Bicycles no longer cost $100, right? When I was a child, I think I lost 3 bikes at Woolworths, locked and unlocked. Bikes are no longer $100. People are driving around $2,000, $3,000 bicycles now. In regards to, is there an opportunity to look at, secured bike parking, because there really isn't any other bike parking downtown that's secured. I think that'd be something maybe just to look at there. And And I do agree. I think, you know, we should move ahead with what's in scope in terms of the eligible cost. And I don't understand the replacement of the parking meters as well. I know that we had that big discussion not too long ago with Lou, and you know, it's just more or less to keep people moving. I don't know if they're in disrepair. Maybe that's something that we can kind of get some feedback in regards. Are they operational? And I think the electrical wouldn't be a big issue with the modernization in terms of the Moffett Street reconstruction.
Sir Jack, no?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's a great idea. I think we should move forward. My only concern is the band shell. I don't think it looks like it's going to be really that large. I would endeavor it'll be for one guy and a guitar and a bench, maybe providing some entertainment or one or two people. It was great to see the art there during the summer. I saw people, I talked to many, they weren't from here. They stopped to look at the art, you know, and you were creating activity. And I'm tired of people saying there's nothing to do in Pembroke. You know, there's something to do if you create it. And the cost is rather minuscule. And I mean, that is sort of becoming, in my estimation, a focal point for the downtown core. People, when they, you know, when I drive down the street, I always glance over to see what's going on, because there's usually something going on. If it isn't the, you know, the beaver tails in the winter, or as you said, there was a fire pit there and people, hopefully they got a permit from the chief, but I would presume that there was some activity. And I think that's a good thing to see. It's vibrant. You know, we look at other municipalities around us and they have, you know, a skating rink through the bush. You know, so why can't we be a little innovative and have a focal point within our community and provide something through the arts? I think it's a great idea. We should be going for it.
Mayor Gerva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very pleased with the report. It's an indication of operations working together with Ms. Sutherland, together working with the PBIA. So while I recognize the previous report was about communications in a large part, it shows to me that there is great communication that's going on between all of these different entities. In respect to, I appreciate, Madam Chair, your comments in respect to what might be in the ground and so forth, but I do recognize and also have the benefit of sitting together with the Chair of Operations and Mr. Lewis that it's in conjunction with the work that's being envisioned in respect to that street. So there will, as I would appreciate it, be equipment necessary to achieve whatever needs to be achieved in respect to this, should the grant be obtained. I have no issue, take it or leave it, in respect to the parking meters. I will say this, that, you know, and I'm not a grant writer and I'm not the individual reviewing the grants. It would strike me, however, that if you have your hand out and you're looking for funds for certain things, if you're showing that you're also going to put your money where your mouth is in respect to other aspects, I would have thought that you have a more likely opportunity to obtain those funds, because it shows that you are putting, some people reference it, skin in the game. You're showing that you are willing to contribute certain funds. I recognize what Councillor Keel is saying in respect to the General Capital Reserve. I'm hopeful that, similar to the report that came out earlier in respect to the Kinsman pool, that I'm hopeful that it will come in on, or hopefully shortly below budget, to allow for sufficient funds to do this work of AODA compliant surfacing, as well as the electrical component. I know, talking to the manager of the PBIA, that the electrical part is huge. Otherwise, you have beaver tails with a generator running, trying to achieve different things for them. And we're constantly trying to talk about this EODA compliant, making things accessible to different people. And what I'm hearing around the table is this should be a focal point for our downtown, to draw people into the downtown, and you know, then they can spend funds in our downtown and benefit all the different great businesses that are there. So I wholeheartedly support what's being put forward, and commend staff for finding this particular grant, which is just yet another thing in the many different things that they have to do during the day. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. In speaking with Ms. Bethia, the manager of the PBA, the electrical is very important. This park has been the focal point of many events, as Councillor Giacono referred to, but we haven't done anything with it for a while, and I was really glad to see this proposal. And, you know, we have the youth entrepreneurial programs, we have programs in the winter. It's a focal point, as other councillors have said. Other communities our size have this type of park. So I'm going to make a motion that we accept all three requests. Without the meters.
There's a motion on the table by Deputy Mayor that we accept the presentation excluding the meters, seconded by Councillor Keel, and we have a comment from Councillor Plummer.
Deputy Mayor beat me to the motion. I was going to support it wholeheartedly, the motion just to remove the meters, so.
Okay, thank you. No further comments? I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? Approved, minus the meters. Thank you. And that concludes our Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Keel, Councillor Plummer. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Operations Committee meeting of March 19th. Call to order. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Mayor?
Mr. Chair, in respect to 6C, I'll be declaring a pecuniary interest in respect to that as Mr. Shepherd acts in respect to this particular matter.
Thank you. Noted. Any others? Seeing none. Move the approval of the meeting agenda. Moved by Councillor Giacono, second by Councillor Freni. Those in favor? Approved. Approval of minutes of the Operations Committee meeting on February 20th. Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Approved. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. First up, a new business, 2023 Pollution Control Center Annual Compliance Report. Mr. Lewis, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Operations Department recommends committee accept the Pollution Control Center, PCC, Annual Compliance Report for 2023. Should the committee accept the report, the enabling resolution will come forward to council later this evening. The legislated date for producing the PCC Annual Compliance Report is March 31st. The compliance report, which was attached to committee packages, covers the period from January 1st to December 31st of 2023. The report examines compliance with the city's Certificate of Approval and relevant MECP legislation and guidelines. The city's wastewater treatment and collection systems is subject to numerous legislative requirements, including the Ontario Water Resources Act, the Environmental Protection Act, the Nutrient Management Act, and several others, and they're detailed in the report. Of note, in the compliance report in 2023, the PCC was unable to meet the E. coli discharge criteria excuse me, for March and June, but all other ministry compliance was met. Over the year, there were 6 occurrences of plant secondary bypass, and that's due to heavy rainfall events. All bypasses were reported and remediated, meeting MECP requirements, and all the details regarding those are included in the annual report. There were no occurrences of primary bypass, and there are no financial implications associated with this report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh my goodness, I'm having a complete Purcell. I have a brief moment there. I'm looking at you, I know who you are, and I'm like, Councillor Purcell, please proceed.
Thanks, Mr. Lewis, for your report. Can you just explain why March and June, the coli? I don't understand in terms of the volumes in March. I was looking at the volumes, so it wasn't really volume related. I just don't understand why.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the variances in the E. coli results in March was due to taking on septage from another location, from another municipality. So similar to what happened to us before when COVID hit us, and there was numerous locations. I'll use Garrison Petawawa, for example. CNL was similar. Trying to reduce the amount of people going into certain facilities, they used a lot of porta potties. And not necessarily where the porta potty is being used, but there was lots of chemical in them, and when they get dumped and brought to the pollution control center, it can upset the whole treatment process. And we believe in the earlier occurrence in March. It was related to taking in septage from another location. In the latter part, in June, it was due to washout. The heavy rains that we get, inflow and infiltration into our wastewater system makes its way down to the plant. The plant requires a certain amount of nutrient, a certain amount of solids in the treatment process, and we get that much fresh water coming into the treatment plant and into the process, it tends to wash some of those solids away on us, and then the bugs that are required for the treatment process don't have the food to live, and it can change the way things go in the process. So that's the simple answer there.
So I guess in terms of lessons learned, has it changed in terms of our septage receiving? I know that we were looking at a new septage receiving station that will rectify that problem, I would expect. But has there been any process, do we still receive the septage, or is it going to be another issue this year in March? And
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I'll answer that in two ways. One, immediately when we noticed that the system had been upset with the septage, we immediately stopped taking any more of that septage material. That was immediate. We informed the hauler and the provider that we weren't going to accept any more. So that was the immediate. For next year, and it happens when that particular location is cleaning out their holding tanks, excuse me, they'll be doing the same thing again in spring of next year. We will have our new septage receiving station in place at that point in time, and it gives the opportunity. Right now, we're taking that material, gets dumped right in front of the plant. So it doesn't have an opportunity to mix with anything else on the way. Our new septage receiving station is going to be quite a ways away from the treatment train, if we call it that, and it'll have an opportunity to mix with the other wastewater as it's coming down. So that should correct it.
Any other Councillor Keel?
I move that we accept the Pollution Control Center Annual Compliance Report for 2023 and refer the matter to council later tonight for a bylaw.
And seconded by Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? Approved. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Next up is the market rates for union and non-union salaries. Mr. Honorable.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the recommendation here is that Operation Committee recommend Council accept the attached Schedule A as an amendment to Bylaw 2024-12 and the attached Resolution 2024-009 to amend Resolution 2024-006. So as previously reported and has been discussed around the table, the City of Pembroke wages are below market rate, and this is drastically affecting both the retention and attraction of staff. So a bit of the background is that Cornerstone Management Solutions was retained by the city in May of 2023 to conduct non-union and union salary review to determine pay gaps in relation to external markets and to provide any recommendations. On February 20th, 2024, Council enacted Bylaw 2024, which was the QP Local 24 Collective Agreement. However, Schedule A to Bylaw 2024-12 requires amendment to include the market rates for unionized staff. As amending bylaw has been prepared and will be before Council this evening for your consideration. On February 20th, 2024, Council passed Resolution 2024-06, which addressed non-union staff, economic increases, vacation entitlement, and the addition of wellness days. The resolution did not address the market adjustment, and therefore Resolution 2024-009 will be before Council this evening for that consideration. And all the financial implications of the salary review and market rate increases have been included in the 2024 budget for both union and non-union staff.
Councillor Purcell.
I move that we recommend to Council that we accept the attached Schedule A, identifying the market rates for union and non-union salaries.
Councillor Giacono.
Second.
Further questions? Seeing none, to the question, those in favor? Approved. Next item C, note the mayor has left the table. Warming Center Agreement. Mr. Unruh.
Yep, just scrolling down to get to it.
No problem.
So the recommendation is that Operations recommends that Council approve the Warming Center Agreement for 2023-2024. A bylaw has been prepared and will be before Council for their consideration this evening. So the agreement was previously brought before Council on December 5th of 2023 to enter an agreement, and it was passed at that time. However, the farmers market, the grind, hadn't looked at the proposed wording, and there was some additional comments that they wanted to change to reflect actually what was happening on site. And so the amendments of this new agreement are the dates for operations, the insurance requirements, and also space used within the facility. And so this has all been agreed upon now by the grind and the farmers market. And this was also financial implications at a special council meeting held on November 14th. Council approved the $100,000 towards a warming center for the 2023-24 season. So we'll put any questions if there was any.
Councillor Purcell?
First of all, CAO, I'd like to thank you for your hard work that you did negotiating back and forth. I know that there was a lot of back and forth in regards to this warming center agreement, and I'm sure Ward Nemo can attest to the back and forth that actually took place. So thank you so much. I move that that council approve the warming center agreement for 2023-2024 for the warming center.
Deputy Mayor?
I'll second the motion.
Further question, comments? Councillor Lafreniere?
Yeah, thank you for this revised agreement. Just a couple of questions. We're coming to the end of this agreement. Has there been talk amongst the group? I know I attended the meetings at the start, but I was not really assigned by council. I continued to go for a while out of pure interest. I'm wondering if there's discussions about this coming winter. And I also wanted to know about the hours of operation. I know originally it was 10 p.m. Had there been any consideration to earlier? Because I know that there was individuals, on cold nights going other places until the warming center opened up, places like the PMC, and that's not a problem unless there is some activity going on when they're there. So has there been any discussions about the upcoming winter?
Yes, so through the chair, so not as of yet. We wanted to get through this season first, but certainly that was one of the things that the members around the working group set up by the County of Renfrew have discussed that, as soon as this year ends, that we have to start talking about what next year looks like and not wait until September, October.
Just follow up. Thank you very much, because I think it was a success again. I mean, I know we're having issues in the community, but I certainly think that, if anything, the warming center may be mitigating some of those problems in the evening hours. So, thank you.
Councillor Keel?
Are we going to be getting any costings and accounting at the end of this process in terms of how the money was spent and those kinds of things?
So through the chair, so we have been getting updates from the operator, the grind, through the special committee that is set up by the County of Renfrew. And once that's all completed, I can share those that costing.
Any other comments? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder, then call the question. Those in favor? Approved. And that's it. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Keel, Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order for March 19th. I'd ask everyone please take an opportunity to please stand for an opening prayer and reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in respect to the matters on this council meeting? I will be declaring again a pecuniary interest in respect to bylaw 2024-23 warming center agreement, and would be calling upon the deputy mayor at that point to take the chair. In respect to minutes, first up we have approval of the minutes from council regular meeting at council March 5th, 2024. I'd entertain a motion for their approval. I have the deputy mayor, seconded by councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next, we have adoption of minutes from various committees. First is Parks and Recreation Committee, February 20th, 2024. I have councillor Keel, seconded by councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next is Operations Committee, February 20th, 2023. I have councillor Keel, seconded by councillor Purcell. Those in favor? And that is carried. Last but not least, we have receiving minutes from local boards. We have one this evening, Pembroke Heritage Murals, March 6, 2024. Motion to receive those. I have councillor Giacono, seconded by councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Committee reports. First and only committee report this evening is Parks and Recreations Committee Award of Design Build Services for the construction regarding the Kinsman Pool. Councillor Lafreniere.
Your Parks and Recreation Committee of Council begs to report and recommend from its meeting held this evening as follows. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Troy Purcell, that request for proposal number P24-02 for the design build services for the construction of the Kinsman Pool Butler Building retrofit be awarded to Belcon Design Builders Limited in the amount of $1,017,770 plus HST. That additional expenditures in the amount of $150,000 be approved for a contingency allowance. The total value of the recommendations equal $1,167,770 plus applicable HST. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by councillor Lafreniere, seconded by councillor Purcell, that request for proposal P24-02 for design build services for the construction of the Kingsman Butler Building retrofit be awarded to Belcon Design Building Ltd. in the amount of $1,017,770 plus HST. That additional expenditures in the amount of $150,000 be approved for contingency allowance. Total value recommendation of $1,167,770 plus applicable HST. Councillor Lafreniere.
Yes, this is welcome news. A lot of controversy around the pool this year, but I'm really happy to see we're moving forward now with the tender to replace the Butler building. And optimistically, we're looking at maybe the end of August, early September. So I'm sure the residents that use the pool will be very happy. And I want to thank our partners, the fundraising committee that's going to be helping with this, as well as Laurentian Valley, for coming to the table in a big way. Thank you.
You call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Next, under bylaws, we have 2024-17 Water Ice Rescue Services and the Township of Whitewater Region. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second Councillor Giacono, that bylaw 2024-17 being a bylaw to enter into agreement with for water ice rescue services between Township of Whitewater Region and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed. And third, said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by councillor Plummer, second by councillor Giacono, the bylaw 2024-17, a bylaw to enter into an agreement for water ice rescue services between the Township of Whitewater Region and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Plummer.
Yes, this was in October of 2023. Township of Whitewater Region approved the entry into an agreement. The agreement was brought forth to the Finance Admin Committee meeting of December 5th. Of 2023, Council did at the time agree in principle to the partnership. However, there were some areas of agreement that need clarification. Some summarizing points: services areas include non-Whitewater section of the Ottawa River, Muskrat Lake, Toshin Lake, Olmsted, Jeffrey Lake, north end of the Garden Lake, Little Lakes, and tributaries. Term of the agreement is 3 years with automatic annual renewals and termination clauses included. Annual administration fee is $3,000 plus one-time equipment fee of $7,842. Commencement on the date set forth, January 1st, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? And that is carried. Great, thank you. Next is 2024-18, de-designation of a heritage building at 84 Isabella Street. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Plummer that bylaw 2024-18, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 1991-22, being a bylaw to designate the property municipally known as 84 Isabella Street as being of cultural heritage value and interest in the city of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Waiting your signature, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Unruh. Moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2024-18, a bylaw to repeal bylaw 1991-22, being a bylaw to designate the property municipally known as 84 Isabella Street as being a cultural heritage value and interest in the city of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. This was discussed much earlier. This de-designation allows the holder and the owner of the property, Bruce and C.B. Papin, to perhaps have a better chance of, listing and selling their property, because with a heritage assimilation or heritage designation, rather, they were, people were limited. You couldn't change the door front, you couldn't change the doorknob. You had to maintain the heritage quality of the building. The city has de-designated other addresses as well, 253 Catherine Street and 48 Renfrew Street for the same reasons as the owners of 84 Isabella Street. They regard the designation as an impediment to marketability. No heritage restoration grants are available, and concerns that alterations must be made with heritage restoration in mind. I would just like to thank Mr. Papin and his spouse CB for their meticulous focus to maintaining heritage buildings within our community over the years. I think he was born in a different era because he was still working meticulously, even downtown on buildings, windowscapes, etc. He tried to keep them to the actual original heritage and the time frame of when that building was built. So to Bruce and CB, thank you very much on behalf of the Council, City of Pembroke and its residents. Our hope is that whoever purchases that building will have the same heritage intent to maintain the building as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giacono, for that information. And yes, he's been a very good source of information for the restoration and certainly the work to the Pembroke Public Library as well as other initiatives. Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next, Councillor Giacono is 2024-19, zoning bylaw amendment for 163 Peter Street.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Plummer that bylaw 2024-19, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2025-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation, and awaiting your signature, Your Worship.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Giacono, second by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2024-19, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. We had the opportunity to hear Mr. Jason Turcott submit a site plan proposing an addition of 3 dwelling units to the existing duplex dwelling at this address, making it a total of 5 dwelling units. This is in actually within the scope of what the province is expressing to the resident city of Pembroke, that they want more infill and they want to use vacant properties to their maximum. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor of that? It's carried. Next is 2024-20 official plan amendment number 21-240 McKay Street. Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2024-20, a bylaw to authorize the adoption of amendment number 21 to the official plan 2016 of the City of Pembroke planning area be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel and seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2024-20, a bylaw to authorize the adoption of amendment number 21 to the official plan 2016 of the City of Pembroke planning area be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Your Worship. This official plan amendment involves 240 McKay Street, and it changes the official plan designation from central commercial to residential on the official plan. This property was previously a medical clinic and is now being converted into a 6-unit dwelling, which will assist greatly with the local housing need, and particularly the need for more apartment units.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next one, Councillor Keel, 2024-21 zoning bylaw amendment for the same address.
Your Worship, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2024-21, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2024-21, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of the buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Keel.
Like the last bylaw, Your Worship, this bylaw also deals with 240 McKay Street, changing the zoning from a commercial, central commercial slope stability zone to a residential type 3-46 slope stability zone.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Great. Next is 2024-22, amend bylaw 2024-12, QP Local 24 Agreement. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Andrew Plummer, that bylaw 2024-22, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2024-12, a bylaw to provide for the execution of a collective agreement between the Corporation of the City of Pembroke and Local 24 of the Canadian Union of Public Employees be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2024-22 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2024-12, a bylaw to provide for the execution of a collective agreement between the Corporation of the City of Pembroke and Local Number 24, being the Canadian Union of Public Employees, being adopted and passed, and further that the bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the corporation. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is our agreed upon new collective agreement with our city employees.
Those in favor? And that is carried. And so at this point, if I could call upon the Deputy Mayor to bring forward the 2024-23 matter.
Warming Center Agreement, 2024-23, Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Pat Lafreniere, that bylaw 2024-23 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into an agreement between the Pembroke Farmers Market Association, the Grind Pembroke, and the City Corporation of the City of Pembroke for the Warming Center be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Troy Purcell, seconded by Councillor Pat Lafreniere, the bylaw 2024-23, bylaw being to authorize the entering into agreement between the Pembroke Farmers Market Association, the Grind Pembroke, and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke for the Warming Center be adopted and passed, and further, that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of corporation. Councillor Purcell, comments?
Thanks, Chair. Simply a housekeeping issue. It's an agreement between the Grind, the Farmers Market Association, and the City of Pembroke for the operational warming center for the period of 2023-2024. It outlines the usage of the facility, the liabilities, insurances, and responsibilities of all parties. So, thank you.
Okay. Call the question. Those in favor? Carried.
Moving on to motions. First, we have Resolution 2024-8, PCC 2023 Annual Compliance Report. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Jacquino. Be it resolved, the Corporation City of Pembroke approved the City of Pembroke Pollution Control Center 2023 Annual Compliance Reports.
Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Jacquino. Be it resolved, the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approved the City of Pembroke Pollution Control Center 2023 Annual Compliance Reports. Councillor Plummer, did you wish to speak to it?
This matter was dealt with earlier, committee.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is Resolution 2024-9, Non-Union Market Increases. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ian Keel. Whereas the Council of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke enacted Resolution 2024-006 on February 20th, 2022, which authorized non-union staff economic, vacation, and wellness day increases, and whereas the city retained a consultant to conduct a union and non-union salary review to determine pay gaps in relation to the external market, and whereas Resolution 2024-006 did not address market increases for non-union staff, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves Resolution 2024-009 authorizing market increases to non-union staff.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Whereas the Council of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke enacted Resolution 2024-6 on February 20th, 2022, which authorized non-union staff economic, vacation, and wellness day increases, and whereas the city retained a consultant to conduct a union and non-union salary review to determine pay gaps in relation to the external market, and whereas Resolution 2024-6 did not address market increases for non-union staff, therefore be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves Resolution 2024-9 authorizing market increases to non-union staff. Those in favor? That is carried. For the Mayor's report this evening, good evening, everyone. On March 6th, the CAO and I met with our MP to discuss various issues that affect our community, including the issues of funding of our infrastructure and the matters surrounding issues such as drug addictions, treatments, and the ongoing opioid crisis. As always, we continue to work with all levels of government as we address ongoing matters. On March 8th, a meeting was called with community health agencies to gain a better understanding and address future strategies to deal with the vulnerable population in our community. There was a number of action items from that meeting, including a commitment to meet again as a group and to include other relevant organizations, including the Grind, OATC, the Warden, in addition to the Health Unit, Paramedics, Fire Department, and OPP, so that we can work positively together as we address these issues. The city will be moving towards an enhanced readiness mode, as was already indicated in a previous press release. The steps forward include various disciplines working together on this very serious matter. Included in this is an education piece, the availability of appropriate housing, as well as various Renfrew County addiction treatment systems that are already in place, such as ATS, McKay Manor, Pathways, SWMS, and ASH. There are great resources in place in our county to assist with the individuals who are most vulnerable, and I'm most confident that the group being assembled will help understand what is in place now and where appropriate, what is needed to advocate to other levels of government. As the public is aware, 6 arrests were made on March 13th, and investigations continue by the OPP regarding possible links to the sudden death investigations that we are aware of. I wish to bring to the attention of residents of the City of Pembroke that the city has advertised for 2 committees that have vacancies. The first is a vacancy on the Beautification and Climate Action Advisory Committee. The second is the Pembroke Police Services Board. I encourage residents who are interested to go to the city's social media or website, or alternatively speak with our clerk, Heidi Martin, about the position and to receive the applicable form. The deadline is March 22nd. On a much lighter note, as we all know, Easter long weekend is soon upon us, and I want to extend a warm, happy Easter to each and every one of the residents in the city of Pembroke. I hope that the extra long weekend affords some quality time to spend with loved ones and that you do not eat too much turkey or ham. As always, be kind and be safe. Next is notices of motion. I understand the first one is Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Your Worship. My notice is that section 7.8 reports for the procedural bylaw being amended to include references that any member of council that wished to request staff bring forward a report would follow additional steps to ensure the report is relevant and necessary item to be added to the meeting agenda.
Thank you. Next is Deputy Mayor. You have 2 items under notices of motion.
Thank you. I'll be bringing forward the motion in the next meeting. For the City of Pembroke Council to formally request the Government of Ontario to initiate the transfer of responsibilities in the interest of creating a more coherent and standardized regulatory framework for ride-sharing services across the province. Second notice of motion is for City of Pembroke Council to advocate for a mental health and drug treatment rehabilitation facility serving the County of Renfrew.
Okay, thank you. Next is councillor updates. Are there councillor updates this evening? Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I provided some information at past councils in regards to Renfrew County District Health Unit considering potential mergers with neighboring public health units. So there's an announcement today that came out. The Board of Health decides against voluntary merger. So today the Boards of Health of Renfrew County and District Health Unit and the North Bay Perry Sound District Health Unit announced that they would not seek provincial approval and funding to voluntarily merge. On March 18th, the Board of Health of the Renfrew County District Health Unit met and turned down the resolution for a voluntary merger with North Bay Perry Sound District Health Unit. Decision follows a vote in favor of the merger from the Board of Health from North Bay Perry Sound District Health Unit, proposing a potential merger to the Ministry of Health requires Board of Health agreement from both merging health units. As such, a voluntary merger proposal will not be submitted to the Ministry of Health, and further exploration of voluntary mergers will end. This decision was made in response to the Ministry of Health's 2023 initiative to support public health units that decide to pursue mergers and other health units. Both boards of health participated in a merger feasibility study to explore benefits, risks, and local impacts to potential mergers. The Board of Health is committed to prioritizing the health of Renfrew County and District residents. After careful consideration and a full assessment of the risks and benefits of a potential merger, the Board of Health for Renfrew County District Health Unit concluded that the interest of the residents of the of the Renfrew County and District are best served by maintaining status quo and not pursuing a merger at this time. Even though a merger was not approved by the board, we are very appreciative for the collaboration with the North Bay Perry Sound District Health Unit Board of Health throughout the process. The Board of Health for Renfrew County District Health Unit also considered a feasibility of potential mergers with neighboring Eastern Ontario Health Unit and Leeds and Grenville and Lanark District Health Unit, with involved boards of health deciding not to pursue this option further. The Renfrew County District Health Unit Board of Health thanks the Boards of Health for the North Bay Perry Sound District Health Unit, Eastern Ontario Health Unit, and the Leeds, Grenville, and Lanark District Health Unit for the goodwill and collaboration that they have shown to us throughout the process. And this is stated by Joanne King, the Chair of Renfrew County District Health Unit. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was pleased last Friday, March 15th, to sponsor a public skate at the PMC. It was a fun event, and we had a couple dozen people come out and enjoy some skating during the March break. On Saturday, for much of the day, I had the opportunity to be at Fitzy's for the Rockin' St. Paddy's Day with Jake Weckworth event. Jake Weckworth is a local musician here in the area, and this was a fundraiser, his second fundraiser in a couple months for music healing veterans. So there was some great draws, door prizes, 50-50, some great food. So with one event, Your Worship, you not only supported local business, you supported local charity, and you supported local musicians. So it was a jam-packed St. Patrick's Day, lots of green and lots of other things flowing. In terms of a festival hall update, on March 21st at 7 p.m., there's the Kiwanis Festival of Stars. On March 24th, this Sunday at 7 p.m., Dogs Do Magic. So if anyone's looking for a family-friendly event to go to, Festival Hall will be the place to be on Sunday night. And then on March 28th, taking us to the end of this month, Derek Sagan, Nap, Laugh, Repeat, comedy event at Festival Hall at 7:30 on the 28th. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Oh, okay, I thought I saw Deputy Mayor, and then I have Councillor Jackman.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is on behalf of the Mayor and I. The next Committee Watch meeting will be held Monday, April 29th at the Fire Hall at 7 p.m. We encourage the community to come out. We will have a discussion on the issues in the community. Councillor Purcell will be attending to present the Mesa program and some other items like he did at the recent PBA meeting. I was downtown the other day, and we want to welcome two new businesses. Cindy Lou Boutique Children's Clothing at 140 Pembroke Street West, beside Anna's Lingerie and Bathroom Boutique. And we also want to welcome FN Good Food Incorporated, Catherine and Denis at 53 Pembroke Street West, right across from RBC. They have takeout food available, and their Irish stew was delicious. Excuse me, on behalf of the Mayor and I, we're starting our fifth year at the Community Garden, Pembroke Care for Community Garden, third year for our annual Rain Barrel Sale. And it starts on March 22nd, which is World Water Day, and it's open until May 24th. We get $10 a barrel. These are made out of recycled food containers. Everything is prepaid, and the pickup date is June 1st at the Pemice 2. There'll be more information coming. Also, the Lumber Kings are in the playoffs against Navan, and the first game is on Wednesday in Navan, and then Friday at the Pembroke Memorial Centre. So I want to cheer on the Kings. Hope they make it all the way to the finals and beat out Renfrew. And that's her warden that's in the audience. Finally, the County of Renfrew is having a affordable housing summit on April 4th at the Mattaway Centre, and they're inviting developers, investors, real estate specialists, elected officials, and municipal staff who play pivotal roles in affordable housing development. And there's a whole agenda, and you can get information at the Renfrew County website or the Eventbrite. So this is something the county is doing in association with the Affordable Housing Alliance of the Ottawa Valley and other communities, and it's a start to somewhere, and we'll get a discussion going. So that's on April 4th. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And just so that you know, we have yet to wear the Renfrew Wolves jerseys for the year. Councillor Jackman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've been in communication, or he has been with me, rather, the President of Golfview Land Developments, and tonight I had shared with Councillor Fernier, and I've given a copy to our CAO, which I'm sure you'll share with you and other members of the department heads, about what has happened in the North Gwillimbury area in regards to a pool and a library, and you'll have to see it. It'll be distributed to all members of council as well. The individual, the President of Golfview, has indicated to me that he would be prepared to make a substantial donation to the pool, pending it not being as part of a repair. It'll go towards a new pool. He's asked me to keep the amount confidential, and he would like to pass this along perhaps to the fundraising committee in the very near future. He also commented to me that he expects to have building taking place on that development this spring, which is not too far away pending weather. So I just want to make all of council aware of that. we're looking at perhaps 1,300 units. You got to start with one. And he asked me to relay that to council, and I believe that he'll be coming forward with his engineering firm in the next little while to make a presentation to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is closed session. I understand, Councillor Prenier, you have a motion to move into a closed session.
Yes. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Troy Purcell, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per Section 239-2B of the Municipal Act regarding transitional housing supports, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board as per Section 239-2K of the Municipal Act regarding a position paper on a local health initiative, and litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality as per Section 239-2E of the Municipal Act regarding a construction contract.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Frenier, second by Councillor Purcell. This meeting become a closed meeting to discuss, number one, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per Section 239 sub 2 sub B of the Municipal Act regarding transitional housing and supports. Secondly, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board as per Section 239 sub 2 sub K of the Municipal Act regarding a position paper on a local health initiative. And lastly, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality as per Section 239 sub 2 sub E of the Municipal Act regarding a construction contract. Those in favor? That is carried. We will now move into a closed session.